So maybe if you can go into that and explain that journey that you've been on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, after our second child was born, Michelle and I were going at it quite a bit. And I really had the experience
You're
that
not
I,
talking about sex there, are you? So just to clarify,
oh
the
yeah,
differences
no,
between
we were
America
going
and
at it
here.
meaning fighting. We were fighting a lot.
Yes, because going out in Australia can mean like, you know,
Yeah, it can mean that here too. It
yeah,
can
yeah,
mean that here too. Yeah, we were fighting a lot, and my overall experience was that I couldn't handle her.
yeah.
And I started to have this experience that my second marriage was headed in the same direction as my first marriage. And I really, and having done, over 20 years of personal development and coaching over 100,000 people, I was rather arrogant and thought that I knew how to communicate. And I remember getting on the call with you and you just defining what the masculine is and the whole cultural, epidemic that's going on. It was really and I had done men's courses before I met you, but they didn't really hit on this. They didn't hit on this ability to really hear a woman in her full emotion, even though it sounds like she's really pissed off at you. And what would happen with me is I would get deflated, I would go into self pity, or I would blow up and see if I can outpower her,
Mm.
which really never went well. In fact, it really fell flat all the time that I did that. And
Interesting.
sometimes I would really lose my shit thinking that, like, that was some kind of not letting her get me, and it really was not that. I was totally in my feminine, and my dad was not an example of what it was to be in the masculine. You could not have.
And that's a good point you raised, right? I think as men uneducated in this area, it's like, well, if I power up, then she's going to get the message. But it actually
Yes,
does when you understand men and women and how much women need safety and security. And it doesn't matter whether they come to you in their masculine state and like they're tough, they can handle anything. As a woman, she still needs security and safety. Like your wife is from a Russian background, and
yes.
she certainly likes to strap someone at times, correct?
Oh, she knows the masculine very well.
And so what you end up with is if we power up into what we think culturally is the masculine, like I'm going to lead here, then all you end up having is two people clashing, two masculines clashing.
Yeah,
Or if you power up, then she can go into the masculine in a different way by shutting down. And that's the feminine masculine, not the guy's masculine. So
right.
feminine masculine state, when she switches to that place, she's going to shut down and close off and walk away. That's just the reality.
Yeah, and she did that, and when she did that, that would totally trigger my other wounds that, she's going to leave me. And really that was when I had the experience that I was not man enough, and it really brought back other examples in my life and other relationships where I had the same feeling, where I just didn't feel man enough. She should go be with a better man than me. And it was not a good feeling at all.
Yes, yes, and that feeling for us as men of not being able to handle her when she's going through these emotions. And one of the big dynamics that we talk about is that for women, they understand all the different areas of our lives together. And not just understand them, they're tuned into them. So if there's
Yeah.
a slight problem, they're going to raise that problem. And if they're in their masculine state, then they're going to do it from a masculine perspective. And it's always going to come across as criticism. So
Yeah.
this dynamic that we're talking about right now as you well know, is epidemic. Like virtually every single client we talk to when they're doing a
Yeah,
discovery call is facing this dynamic. She's stressed,
everywhere.
she's worried, she's trying to talk to him, and he's shutting down because to him it sounds like criticism. And if he's honest with himself, he feels like he just can't handle her.
Yeah.
And I know you went through that, right, in the early years.
Yeah, totally. And I couldn't hear the contribution because I know deep down inside she loves me, and
Yes.
I know deep down inside she wants me to be the best I can be. But I couldn't, the emotions in which she was speaking from, I couldn't decipher the message underneath. I was just, like you said, feeling criticized, and I would do my dance, either shut down or I would blow up or I would, go into self-pity, and none of that is the masculine. And it changed. I mean, everything changed when I did the code, and I really got, what it was to tune in, because they're coming at us emotionally
Yep.
and they're speaking from their emotions. Me getting emotional does not help. Me remaining calm and just listening, that is what she needs, no matter what's coming at me.
Well, let's define the masculine state more. So, state is a place that we get to, which encompasses a range of emotions. So, we can be in a happy state, we can be in a sad state, we can even be in a depressed state. And those states comprise various emotions. So, the masculine state or feminine. So, very different in each of us. So, as an example, everything in the world is yin and yang. It's hot and cold, light and dark, masculine and feminine states in us. So as a man, I've got the feminine state in me. So what is the feminine state when we go there? It's what we jokingly call minging, right? Man whinging is a definition of it. So when we're doing that, when we're complaining about something and not handling or not being in a certain state to handle something, the message that that conveys, both through our hormonal levels. So when we're in the masculine state, our testosterone level, according to scientific research, increases by as much as 40%. That's a massive, massive increase. She's tuned to that through millions of years of evolution to pick up that communication. And that is what it is. It's an unspoken communication that most people don't get because we're not educated into it. We don't get taught at school or even university or church. We just don't get that information. But it's
No.
absolutely true. So when we're in the masculine state, we're conveying that. When we're in the feminine state, we're conveying the opposite. I'm not certain. My testosterone levels are low, meaning I can't protect you. So she's now going to freak out because even though it's not discussed, she feels like he doesn't have it handled. So now she's going to have to step up and handle it, which puts her under even more pressure. And then for every woman on the planet, it's like, I got enough to deal with. I don't need any more. He's not stepping up, so I'm going to have to step up. And then she moves to her masculine state, which is shut
Yes.
down, closed off, not connected to us as men, and I'm going to handle it all. And so when she does that, what we receive is she's closed off to us. She's being tough or criticizing us. And as men, what we are really looking for in a woman is for her to be open to us, emotionally, spiritually, and physically open to us. It
Yes.
happens, the communication is, I'm closed off to you. So then we feel criticized, we feel unloved, we feel unappreciated for what we do. And women then get this complete communication. And this miscommunication, I know you experienced with Michelle, right?
Oh, totally. I mean, she knows how to deliver communications
Yes. So
intensely
when
to
she's
make
in her
sure that I get
masculine
them.
state, when she's in a masculine state, what was it like for you? What did you experience?
I mean, before this work,
Yeah.
it was, yeah, I felt over criticized. I felt like I'm not enough for her. I feel like, I felt like she should go be with a guy who could take care of her the way she wants. And I became like a fu also, like,
Yep.
that's
To the
kind of
opposite,
also the
which
opposite.
which is not the masculine. That's when a man's in his feminine. That what
No,
you
I was totally in my feminine. And that's what my dad did.
yeah,
That's what I modeled. That's what I learned.
exactly. So you must have also felt like you were unappreciated for the work that you were doing.
Totally.
So for all this other stuff you're doing, you're like, hey, come on, like there's 90% here I'm doing right, and you're just focused on this little tiny bit that I'm not doing.
Well, but you also talk about like we're wired to want to make her happy. So
Yeah.
in my world, I'm running around all day long from sun up till sundown, working. Everything I'm doing is in service of making her happy. So then when she comes at me
Mm.
and criticizes me or, raises an issue in some area of our life together, yes, it's ultra kind of like, well, wait a second, you don't know what's going on in my head. I'm doing all this stuff, running around doing this, that, and the other, you know,
And the
but
problem there is, right? So as men, that's how we feel, and that's okay how we feel that way. But what we
right.
don't know how is to respond in the right way that deflates this anxiety she's now got about this issue.
Yes.
Because it's like
Yes.
if you then step in and go, hang on, I'm doing all this 90%, you're focused on this tiny little piece here that I'm not doing. Immediately, what a woman is going to feel like, you're not listening to me, you're not hearing
Exactly.
me. All she's going to hear then is an excuse rather than a realization that we can handle it. Because the response when you're in the right state, when you change state and you get into that state, she feels that immediately. And that's what we show
Yes.
people how to do inside the relationship code event is get in that
Yes.
state. And
Yes.
when we do that, like we just did the event last weekend in Melbourne, and the couple that volunteered to come up the front and demonstrate this mode of communication, he's doing the right thing. He's in state. And the whole audience could see her upper chest, neck, and cheeks start to flush with the oxytocin that was now being produced because he was in state. This
Yeah.
ancient mode of communication we have lost. Not that it's not there, we've lost the ability to do it and observe it. So
Yeah.
the whole audience could see this happening. And there's the
Yes.
physical proof, the physiological proof of what's going on. So as he moves into state, his testosterone rises. That immediately makes her feel safe and less anxious about the problem that's being discussed.
Yep.
And her oxytocin levels rise by 30%.
Yes.
Oxytocin is the connector hormone. So she feels much more connected to him. He can feel that as well. So he's feeling more connected to her. And it's also the relaxer hormone. So now her levels of anxiety and stress, cortisol levels are falling.
Yeah.
He hasn't said a word yet.
Yep.
He hasn't said one word yet. But the pure
We talk
communication,
too much.
we talk way too much. And often we stick our foot in the mouth, right? When we are
Oh,
talking by trying to convince her that we're handling all this other stuff. Why is she so worried about this? And the metaphor I often use, Ryan, is it's like inside the walls of the kingdom. She's like, oh, shit, there's a leak over there on the wall. And he looks at it like, yeah, it's no big deal. It's tiny. Don't worry about it. Then 2 or 3 months later, like there's a flood coming through the wall. And she goes, I told you.
exactly.
And in appreciating the difference, I know one of the things that you went through was beginning to appreciate that when your beautiful wife comes to you with something, there is an element of truth in it somewhere. There is a problem with that leak, and it does need to be,
Yeah.
maybe it's not absolutely urgent right now, but it does need to be addressed, whether that's the kids, money, the bedroom, your communication, you. Her intent, when we understand it from the right way, is always to improve us and to improve the kingdom. So did you find that
Well,
difficult initially to accept?
yeah, I did find that difficult in the beginning. I think it's a common journey for men after they do the code event to step into really leading in this way.
Yes.
And but I will say that what has remarkably changed is, and I'm not saying, I still fall, I still mess up, but we recover faster. But I used to really walk around thinking she's a bitch in my head.
Sure.
complaining all the time. And that virtually has ended. I do not walk around thinking those thoughts anymore. Those thoughts are literally gone.
Yes.
And, do I like the way her tone is at times? Do I think it could be, do I think she could put on a velvet glove from time to time? Sure thing, she could. But I also know in myself, I can handle it.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what she says,
Yeah.
I can handle it and we will recover.
Because this is not a, for the guys listening, right? This is not a one-way street here. We're just talking about the masculine state in this particular session. But gentlemen, when you come and she comes to the code event, she learns to stop being in the masculine state all the time because for women, being in that state is exhausting. It feels stressed all the time and they're just tired of it, but they don't know how to get in the feminine state and get their message across. So
Exactly.
in the code event, they learn how to do that. They learn to speak from the feminine state much more. And of course, as we both make these adjustments, we start to see, oh, okay, she's not a bitch. And hence, just defining it that way is going to change our reaction, is going to change our state.
Yeah. Well, even Michelle, like, these days, she fully warns me, like, babe, you're coming home. I'm overwhelmed. I'm emotionally full. I
Hmm.
have lots of words and I'm not in a good place.
Yeah,
So I know walking in,
awesome.
I need to be in state. I need to, I need to raise my energy. And I really do have to get up for it. And I am, like I know I can handle it. And I have a lot of compassion for what she holds because she thinks about 18,000 things that I don't think about, nor do I want to.
Totally agreed. As men, we don't think about all that stuff.
No.
Can we get better
She's
at that?
thinking about camp in February. I'm not
Yes.
thinking about camp for the kids in February.
No, no. As men, again, evolutionary wise and biologically, we are wired and designed for immediate response. Where's the danger? If there is a danger, it's now. The
Yep.
feminine, a woman, is much more tuned to where are the dangers in the future. And
Yes.
that's a really good combination when we understand it. And so I'm certain by now we're about, 20 minutes in. We've outlined a lot of stuff. For the guys that are listening, there must be questions. You must be trying to make some distinctions about what we're saying. So please, put them up in the chat and we will respond to them because we want to make it interactive. We want to be able to make sure we cover every question that you've got. So please start firing some questions at us because we definitely like to cover those. So in that journey to where you're at now, I know that like when Michelle comes to you, like you were joking before we got on here that, Michelle had something today, that she approached you about, right? But I think as men, it's so cool that we get to a point where it's like we know what's coming. We can anticipate what's coming. And when she does do that stuff, we just don't react to it the way that we used to react to it anymore.
No, and I'm at a place where, I know the effect. Even if I raise my voice a little bit, I know it threatens her in a very subtle way, her safety and security.
Hmm.
And, I even have a day counter and I've told men, I coach men to do this. If they get emotional or they lose their shit, I tell people, men, to keep a day counter, like a sobriety day counter, because it matters to me that much that like, yes, I'm gonna mess up a million more times, but I what I do want to promise her is I'm never going to lose my shit. I'm never going to get scary. I'm never going to raise my voice. And that's something that like that's why I keep a day counter because if I can keep that day counter for the rest of my life and
Hmm.
just remain calm no matter what she's saying, because the damage that gets done when I do lose my shit or I do get emotional or I do get in her face, it's just so damaging. And to recover from that is just way worse than what she was initially annoyed with. So, yeah. That's a practice that I have put into place.
Mm. And I think that's a really good reminder because when, as men, aside from a masculine and feminine state, as men, we're seeking peace. We just want the relationship to be good all the time. And what it can feel like to us is that if she's being stressed, and I want to emphasize here, gentlemen, that she's always going to feel stressed. There's always going to be things happening for her that cause her concern or worry. Now, it's not like we don't have stresses, okay? Of course we do. Of course we do. But as men, we tend to want to handle those stresses ourselves on the inside. For a woman, the way that she de-stresses is to talk about that stress. That
Yeah.
enables her to, when she talks, she produces more oxytocin, the cortisol levels drop, and so it helps her de-stress. But we de-stress by not talking. We de-stress by going inside and handling it.
Yeah.
And what we're going to do, and then go and do it. So yes, we have stresses too, but from a communication point of view, what we're emphasizing here is that she's always going to come to you with things. Now, maybe you're saying, well, shit, my wife never does that. Well, I would suggest to you she's firmly in her masculine state and she's shutting down and holding inside. But eventually that is going to build up. And
Yes.
it is a sad statistic that 80% of relationships ending, marriages ending, divorce filings are done by women.
Yep.
And often men certainly talk to us and say, what happened? Like, I thought things were going great. I thought they were going fantastic. She didn't even like suddenly she just said she wanted to end it. What the hell happened? On the other side, women often say, I told him I wanted a divorce and he didn't even fight for me,
Yep.
which is really sad.
Yeah. And we also, I think in my experience of talking to so many men and working with so many men, I find that when a man is in his masculine, he's in his heart.
Yes.
And when a man is in his feminine, he's in his head and he's
Yes.
trying to say the right thing. And, what's really challenging for us men is to lean in emotionally and just love them. Like
Yes.
that's what they want. They want to experience love. So you have to be loving.
Yes.
And we just don't get that right a lot. Like, we'll just mess that up because again, we're in our head trying to do it right, but really it's like they want us to be attuned emotionally,
Yep.
which we don't wake up in the morning feeling that at all. Like
No.
not in any way, shape, or form.
Good question there from Christy. Thank you, Christy, for posting that. So, what do you do when she comes out with 5 to 6 things that may never happen in the future? You listen, you provide presence in the masculine state. So, I can sit here and provide listening, which is going to be totally non effective because the state I'm in right now is completely wrong. But if I'm in state and there's a physiological method you have to use, gentlemen, to get in that state. And again, that's what we demonstrate and we help train men in inside the code event. And when you're in that state and provide presence and listen to her, whether it's 5 things or 20 things. And again, if you listen to a woman's communication, one paragraph, she'll cover 5 or 6 things in that one paragraph. In a guy's brain, he's still on topic number one. He hasn't moved on to all these other topics because our brains are not designed to be able to handle all those things at once. That's why we often say, right, that women can multitask because the corpus callosum, the connection between the left and right hemisphere, is twice the size in a woman as it is in a man's. So it exchanges information between logistical things and emotional things much, much quicker, much, much faster, and more efficiently. So the answer to your question is, Christy, when she's doing that, is focus and presence, listening to her, and then reassuring her that whatever happens, even if you don't have the answer as a man right now, that it's going to be okay. We're going to handle those things if they come up, because ultimately, that's all she's seeking is reassurance, that together we're going to handle whatever happens in life. And ladies, as you're listening to this, I'm sure you can relate to that feeling that you want.
And gentlemen, do not try to fix it and do not minimize it because that's not going to go over very well. But
Yes.
they what they do want to know is, babe, I totally get that you're stressed about these things, you're concerned about these things, you're overwhelmed by these things. And you know what? We're going to tackle them one by one together and we will get through this.
So we're giving you the strategy there, but let me point out, right? State is this much of it, and strategy is that much of it.
Yeah, exactly.
So they may be the words, but you say those same words that Mark just said in the wrong state, and it is totally non-effective.
Yeah.
It's like walking into a job interview and you head somewhere else. You're really in a really shitty mood. You're distracted. You're not feeling confident. You're not even sure you want the job. By that state, you're guaranteeing your results. And it's no different when it comes to intimate communications. In fact, according to studies done in the US in a couple of universities, 93% of communication in relationships is non-verbal. So the words, the strategy is actually only 7%. It's that small. Most of it is non-verbal communication, which, if you're really honest with yourself and listening to this, most of us suck at non-verbal communication. We don't understand it. We don't realize what we're doing when we're communicating with people. At work, totally true. At home, even more true that we're not getting it. So,
I think also, Brett, like
yep.
men are trying to like just survive the conversation and get through it. So like in the exact same thing I said before, like if you're in the wrong state, it'll come out like, babe, don't worry about it. Like we're going to get through it. It's fine. It's all going to be fine.
Yep.
That is not the masculine state because what she wants is your presence to
Mm,
know that you're on the post.
yep.
So you need to slow down. You need to really lean in and be there for her because you care.
And
Not that you're
presence,
just trying to get out of the conversation.
yeah. And presence is not just being there in your body, it's being there in the state. And that's a physiological thing that
Yeah.
really, I can demonstrate a little bit here on the screen in terms of the level of certainty I'm feeling, the power I'm feeling up in my chest right now, that I know the women are picking up. The guys will be like, what the fuck is he talking about? What's he doing? When you experience it live, you can feel it, you can experience it, and you know it's there. Because the truth is about every man that's listening, we have an animal inside of us. And culturally, that animal is defined as toxic. But the truth is, we can use that animal in a positive way to create certainty with her in communication that ultimately, gentlemen, gives you the peace, the real peace that you're seeking. Now, Doug asked the question, is there a difference in the energy masculine states in different archetypes? So for those of you not sure what an archetype is, it's like king, queen, warrior, sage,
Magician, yeah.
lover, etc. So absolutely, Doug. The answer to that question is yes. So the king state comprises this very clear masculine state, whereas the queen state very much composes the strong feminine, not harsh or hard feminine, the strong feminine, where she's in her intuition. She's very clear about listening to her heart. And again, if you'll, when we use this word heart, we're not talking about some new age airy fairy thing. What we're talking about is the fact that our heart muscles have neurons in them. They are now defined as a second source of intelligence in our bodies, as much as our brain is an intelligence. So is the heart, and so is the stomach, because the stomach produces 85% of the serotonin, the feel-good hormone, rather than our brain. And the heart is an electromagnetic generator that we can feel, that as human beings we're tuned into. So this is a very real scientific thing. And if a woman is in her masculine state, she will be in her head. If she's in a feminine state, she'll be in her heart, and it's the opposite for guys. So in our head, we're in our feminine state, trying to figure it all out, being blocked off, processing neurologically, processing content, and no emotions at all. unable to read emotions at all. In our masculine, we're in our heart. We don't say a leader has a great head. We say a leader has a great heart. And there's a reason for that. And so in this place, we're in a masculine state. So I trust that answers your question, Doug. If it doesn't, ask for clarification. Okay, what's the best tools we have to help her return to her feminine state? As we described before, getting in state, being present to her, and listening and giving her that listening and really listening for what is the emotional content of what she's actually saying here. Is it really about the kids? Is it really about money? It's not going to be. It's going to be about you understanding her emotions, because when we give a woman presence from a masculine point of view, what she receives is the feeling of that we understand her emotions and understand her. She feels heard. She feels understood. And hence, after that, she feels loved. And that, gentlemen, of course, is exactly, what she's seeking. So Jen, I attended the course. She still hanging on to stuff from the past. Being calm, loving. Steve, yeah, it's not calm, loving. Like that is part of the state. It's being in that certainty state. So even when she's raising that stuff from the past, that's a test. And I get at the moment you might be confused about how is that a test? Like, why does she keep bringing up this stuff? It's a test to see how you're going to react. Are you still certain? Will you cave? Are you safe? These things women do all the time. Now, I'm saying that she shouldn't stop bringing up the past, because to make a relationship work, we have to be able to forgive, and that's a separate topic. And at some point, she needs to be able to move past what has happened in the past if she wants to continue the relationship and have the open love and connection that I'm sure she actually seeks and desires. But from your point of view, Steve, answering your question, come back and do a refresher. We talk about all the time, being able to master something takes repetition and intensity of repetition. So if you haven't quite mastered the masculine state yet, it's time for a refresher to come back and redo that and master the masculine state, because that ultimately, in her asking these very annoying questions, or prompting these things about the past and not letting go of it, she's testing. She's testing to see your reaction. Is this guy,
And
go Mark?
you can't budge. A lot of men, they get tested and tested, and then they start opening the back door like, I don't know how much longer I can handle all this. And it's really like, no, you close the back door and you do whatever it takes, no matter what discussion you have to have, no matter if it's coming back and doing a refresher, because like we're saying here, you want to get in your heart. And that is the power of doing the code event over and over again, because you're going to walk in and by Sunday, you are going to be in that state. And from that state, you know what to say. From that state, you know how to lean in and love that person. And no matter what she says about the past, you're going to be able to address it in a way that she could heal it, because underneath that is she has stuff that she needs to heal from her past, which is why she's probably bringing it up. And again, it's a test.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, right? That if you're not getting the result, Steve, I would suggest you're not in quite the right state to achieve that result. Because what we've seen consistently over 30 years is that when we deliver it from the right place, it does change how the other person reacts. There are these inbuilt needs that we have as men and women. Men, we love to be appreciated for the things we do, right? That's just how all men feel. How can I be so certain about that? Because now over like tens of thousands of people through the event, I say that to men inside the event, and they're like, yeah, of course, we all love an appreciation. We all love. Women might say they like to be thanked and appreciated for the things they do, but it's different for men. Women predominantly in conversations want to be heard and understood by their partner, feel that they get them, and that provides safety. That's part of the strategy, but that's only a small part. Most of it is around being in this masculine state that is very hard to master initially because there's no examples around us. And Steve, the other thing that happens is day to day, you're walking around unconsciously being influenced by the people around you. As human beings, we naturally move into what is called rapport. In other words, the same state as other people around us, to feel connected to them. And so it's very easy to come out of the event in your heart and then go back to your head because everybody else around you is in your head. But think about it. Relationships are not about communication from the head. Relationships are about communication from the heart. And we have a saying inside the code, if you remember, in your head, you're dead. Your head can be very useful when you're using a circular saw, right? You need your head to be able to do that. Otherwise, you're going to miss a few fingers. However, it is useless. And I repeat the word, it is useless. You have to have the ability, you have to master the ability to move from your head to your heart when you want to have an emotional conversation with her. That is the truth.
Yeah.
So a couple more questions we've got here. Um, from Doug again, can my masculine state be misread or not be as strong as another person? No. So the masculine state inside men is built into our nervous system. So you think about it from this point of view. There are 3,500 words in the English language that describe emotional states. Those states are the same in all of us. We all know how to be happy. We all know what it feels like to be sad. We all know what it feels like to be worried or concerned or anxious. And sometimes, based on the conditioning that we've been through in the past, events that have happened to us, we can get locked into some of those emotional states. So the states are the same in everybody, but they can get misused. When it comes to the masculine state, Doug, the question you're asking is, and I get it, like every man gets this. When you've got a woman coming to you who is very stressed, like she might have had things happen to her in the past that have intensified the level of anxiety that she experiences, which is not the normal cultural level of anxiety that women experience. So she might have had experiences with men that make her feel unsafe with men. So once it happens with one man or a few men, then it becomes all men from an experiential point of view. Same for women. You know, if they've been betrayed by a father or another authority figure, then it can easily become not just those men, but all men that I need to be cautious of. And so if you're dealing with a woman that has that heightened level of anxiety, you definitely need to be able to maintain your masculine state at a much higher level than a normal level of anxiety a woman would experience. And if you're experiencing doubt, which is coming to you with that heightened level of experience, that would be the answer to your question. You need to increase your masculine state even more. Equally, it would be great if she was open to doing more work on reducing that level of anxiety and that level of mistrust of men. I see thousands of comments on social media from men that go, excuse my language here, but women are fucked, right? And they simply don't understand. They do not understand what they're dealing with. The women that they're choosing or the women that we're with have probably experienced what no woman should have to experience, and that is a betrayal from the masculine growing up, or experiences where they've been betrayed by men, in circumstances of sexual assault or betrayal or things like that. That form of conditioning makes it very difficult for them to trust a man and hence the masculine. And so that is something that she would certainly need to be open to working on to help her be open to love. Because the reality is what we're talking about here is creating a bridge or a platform, which is why we use that as a symbol in our symbol of the kingdom. We use it as a bridge. We're talking about opening up the bridge so that we can both feel loved. And if, as men, we're in a feminine state, there's no way we're ever going to feel loved. It simply won't happen. Those emotional states are not available in our feminine state as a man. Equally, if she's in the masculine state as a woman, she's never going to feel that. She's got her protection up.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds counterintuitive, gentlemen, but when we're in our feminine state, we have our protection up. We have a chest plate on, and we're not allowing love in. We can block
We
it out.
also we also get worried about what we're going to get. You know, we're not getting the love or we're not getting respect. And I find that when you think it's like tit for tat, or you're also in the wrong state, because a masculine man can own all of it, and they're not just waiting for her to take responsibility. The men lead. And I often find that this is a pitfall that men fall into straight out of the code. They often say, "Well, why do I always have to? Why do I always have to lead? Why do I always have to go first?" Well, that's the deal. Whether you think it's fair or not, you have to lead and go first, because if you want her to own her stuff, you have got to master owning yours over a consistent period of time, to where she feels safe enough to start opening up and sharing her vulnerable stuff that you actually, in fact, want her to own.
Mm.
Because, yes, it does take two. And we say, in the code event, the king and queen must rise together for the kingdom to stand. So, yes, both parties have to do the work. But the deal is, men lead. And this is where we lead. We go first.
And in our culture now, it's like, well, hang on, we're equal. We should both lead. So that's been in place culturally for maybe 70 years, this idea. And where we've got to is that we're equal, and we are equal, and we should be equal in all social things. But we are not the same. We are completely different. And prior to this period, we've had a million years of evolution where men led and were the protectors. That is biologically wired in. You can say that's old-fashioned. It's not. It's actual science. There's been many, many studies done around this dynamic that we're talking about, of men shifting to the feminine state, women going into the masculine. The Gottmans did their study of 3,500 couples videotaped. And exactly this dynamic came up. And what they called it was the four horsemen. They called it, contempt, etc., in communication. These four major things, resentment, etc., that came up in communication. And what we're saying is that this dynamic we're explaining using the format of the masculine feminine states causes that dynamic now at a scale we've never seen before in human history. We have a relationship breakup rate that is huge. It's around 60% when you include de facto relationships, where people are living together and haven't actually put the ring on the finger. So it is way, way too high. And the cultural impact of that on our children is massive. So I hear many people go, oh, the divorce wasn't that bad. We get on really well now. We respect each other. They block their eyes to see the impact on their children. And I'm not putting blame here. I'm putting facts in front of you so you can be really, really clear about this. How do I know this? Is it just, Brett's opinion? Is he an asshole? Wants to make me feel guilty? No, he wants to make you aware of what actually happens. So again, numerous psychological studies, peer reviewed. In other words, not just, some one person's opinion, peer reviewed by many others, clearly shows that children of divorce experience higher rates of a relationship breakup themselves, higher rates of suicide than other children, poorer results in study and at school, greater problems in connecting socially with other people, and the list goes on and on. It is something that we want to avoid for our children as much as we possibly can. Am I saying should stay together for the children? Absolutely not. What I'm saying, as Mark said before, is that you should investigate every possible angle. Like, again, we just did the code event here in Melbourne. It was the same when we did it a few weeks ago in San Diego. We have people there on the verge of like, this is the last thing. If this doesn't work, we're getting divorced. And now they're not getting divorced. Why? Because in 3 days, it is possible. 3 days is 33 hours with us. That is equivalent to years of therapy. crammed into 3 days. Why? Because human beings learn through repetition and intensity of repetition. And we become very effective through understanding neural plasticity, the way we rewire our brains, to help move all the resentment out of the way, to let go of the past, and put those things aside. Because if you think about it, states aside, one of the skills and tools that we assist people with is to argue, forgive, and reset. And Mark, I know that you and Michelle have been able to get those states right and use that tool right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're always resetting and we reset fast. I mean, nothing lasts for more than a day or two. I mean,
And it
if
used to be
that
a lot longer than that, right? It used to be like,
used to be a lot longer for sure.
yeah,
She used to take her love away for weeks. I
yeah,
mean, weeks. I mean, and listen, we deal with couples all the time that have lived in resentment for years,
yep.
decades.
And and I certainly knew in my early years, we would get angry and we would remove our love as well.
Absolutely.
And the
Absolutely.
problem with removing love is it creates a massive device in the relationships. It makes it very hard to come back together. And even if you do, it's like a subtle piece, that is really not there.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, guys, any other questions that you might have for us? Because we'd certainly love to make sure we've covered everything that you guys might possibly have in your minds around.
Brett, I do want to add one thing.
Please.
I think it's worth mentioning that, out of really stepping into this state of certainty in the masculine state, not only did my relationship grow, but I 6x'd my company.
Yep.
And that all came out of, and I had struggled 10 years ago when I started dating Michelle, I was $100,000 in debt. And
Mm,
that was pretty much the life I knew, was being in debt, living paycheck to paycheck, and having low self-esteem around money. And after stepping into the masculine and this certainty and really wanting to give this everything I got, which is to become the provider that I wanted, to be the husband, to be the father. I 6x'd my company. We moved into we bought our first home together. I mean,
mm,
life is ridiculously unrecognizable, but only because it was all my certainty that this is going to turn out. And nothing else was I more committed to, was to being certain that this path of understanding and mastering the masculine was it.
yep.
And have I failed at it a million times? Absolutely. In order to really master the masculine, you have to fail at the masculine a million times. And that is just
Yep.
the deal.
Yep. And the reality, of course, is that that's the same with any skill that you gather in life. And this is an essential
Absolutely.
skill that our culture has lost. As men, we're lost. We're very confused about as men. How do I show up as a man? What the hell does that mean? And gentlemen, it's not about the things that we do. It's not going for the 42K run. It's not that. It's how you show up day to day in the house that really counts when it comes to your marriage. That's what we have
Exactly.
to master the masculine. And it is an essential skill that I've gained. And, we've just celebrated 30 years of marriage together. And I would say it's the best that it's ever been because we've consistently worked at that area of our lives. And as you said earlier, we have this saying in the relationship code that two is more powerful than one, and the king and the queen must rise for the kingdom to stand. And I think, as you explained earlier, I remember you and Michelle in that very first event, like 7 years ago. And I remember you coming up to me afterwards and saying, I want to do this and I want to do the business mentoring and I want us to do everything. And Michelle was like, oh my God, you're committing half our yearly income to this. This is insane. And you were so certain about it. And because you're in the masculine state, she did support you and did go with you. So, gentlemen, that's a clue. Like I know as a fellow man, we always feel like we want to lead and we want her to come with us and support us. But you have to be able to master that state to convey that message to her so she can let go of her worries and let go of her concern and follow you and come with you. And at times you also have to be open to her massive intuition as a woman that she will provide a perspective for you that you will never get being a guy. And I certainly do that with Marie. I know you very much do it with Michelle as well.
Yeah, and you really can't mess with a man or anybody who is certain because I had no evidence either when I, you know, inspired Michelle to really go on this journey. And between her and I in the last 2 years, we've gone to Australia 8 times to get trained to bring the relationship code to the United States. And if you were to told me that 2 years ago, I thought I would think you were nuts, but the money just has kept showing up. But it's again, it's all inside the certainty, but you don't need evidence to be certain. That is evidence that state is so critical
If you
because
need evidence, go ahead.
yeah, when you're in state, you're in the present moment. And there is no evidence for the present moment. The evidence only comes from the past. And if you're looking for evidence, then you're in your head. But state comes from the heart and it comes from being present.
Yes. Doug asked a really good question. Being a nurturer my whole life, in other words, a giver, and we can overgive. We can, as a person, men or women, we can give too much. And Mark very much relates to this, and I think a lot of the guys listening, where we're giving and giving and expecting that that's going to produce a result. And Doug asked the question, I need to practice being stronger and stronger masculine. Absolutely, Doug, because that was part of the journey that Mark had to go down. He was always, as he said earlier, running around trying to do all these things for her, give her things, you know, run down and get the groceries for her, bring them home and expect that she's going to be absolutely thrilled. Yes, women like all that stuff, but what they love and what they need is this certainty and this state. Now, someone asked a question like, what other practices can you do to get in a state? Well, first of all, gentlemen, you really need to come to a code event. I know you think that's just a sell, but it's just a reality because you're not going to see it anywhere else. You're not going to see it demonstrated, and more importantly, you're not going to experience it the way you're going to experience it inside the event. Look, we'd love to do this stuff online, but it is so essential that you're in the actual event experiencing it physically, that you really
Yeah.
can get a sense in you of what that actually is and how to do that.
It
And
would be so much easier to do this online, but there is just no way to convey it.
yeah. And Cole missed her question earlier. She said, when he doesn't share his feelings, and I'm left like, I should know. Yeah. So how does a man like share his feelings? Well, there's a way to do that from your masculine state. She want that's when we do what we call kingdom talks, where we're sitting down talking about our lives together. The kingdom is a simple term for lives together. The only reason we use that term, it's not a guy or feminine thing. It's empires around the world have always collapsed. The only thing that's ever last is a kingdom, and a kingdom is based around family. So the kingdom is the family. It's all the areas of the family. And sitting down having those talks is an opportunity for a man to express how he feels about certain things. But gentlemen, when you have those talks, you again have to be clear. Am I in my masculine state in my heart, able to express what I'm feeling about this? Or am I in my head expressing concepts and ideas which will fall flat for her? She doesn't want your concepts and ideas. She wants your feelings. So, Richard says, anyone thinking about doing the code or sitting on the fence last October after years? Oh, okay. Thank you, Richard. Richard's giving a recommendation there because he just did the code last year. And I know he's coming not this weekend, the following weekend to the one in Brisbane. Good choice, Richard. It will certainly continue to improve things in your relationship. Sam asks, when you feel like you don't have his presence or he's not in state, how do you go about that? How do you go about pointing that out? Well, Mark, how does Michelle go about pointing it out when she's in a masculine state?
Oh, when she's in her masculine state, she'll just tell me, you are not in the masculine state.
Yeah, and how does that go down with you?
Oh, it's not good. I mean, it's yeah, I mean, look,
It's
I'm
a
at a point
takedown, isn't
now.
it? Like it's an absolute takedown. If you were
Yeah.
trying to be in your masculine state, that's going to definitely pull you out and put you in the feminine state, isn't it?
Well,
So
yeah,
like,
especially because Michelle's done all this work. So she knows all the lingo. So she knows how to zing the lingo around to
yes,
really like, mess up my brain or, my
correct.
state. So,
But when she says it in the feminine state, what's the difference? How does she say it from the feminine state?
oh, she said, what she'll say is, I have a lot of words and I really need I need your presence right now. I
And
need you to be focused.
how does that go down with you? How do you react to that as a man?
Incredible. Like I totally rise. I
Yeah,
totally am the person that I want to be for her
yeah. And
because she's not attacking me. And she's gotten really good at it.
she's talking about herself, giving you an opportunity to assist her by the way she's expressing it from her feminine state.
Yeah.
And that, of course, makes a huge difference in the level of communication and what we actually get from each other. So when we get this dynamic right, it changes dramatically relationships, increases connection, makes us feel much more loved in a relationship and like we never want to leave. We call it giving each other the gift of forever.
And even if she does, there are times where she is in her masculine state. We're not going to be in the right state all the time.
Times
And
when we're
when
in our
she
feminine state, Mark, of course.
exactly. And even if she does, like I've gotten better at, even if she does say something like, you're not in the masculine state,
Hmm.
I don't, I can hear that and step it up
Yep.
without getting deflated. It used to really mess me up,
Or
but now
defensive.
I can actually hear that and hear it as a contribution. Like, okay, I need to bring more here.
Yep. And one of the mistakes that people make is they approach relationships cognitively, in other words, in their heads, both men and women. And if they do that, you're never going to be successful because relationships are all about emotions and exchanging emotions, feeling different and allowing love in. So it is a great truth that we are much more comfortable in sending love to someone else. It feels far safer to do that than actually let it in. But
Yeah,
that again is an
fully.
unconscious communication that's going on. And state has a lot to do with that. So, Mark, thank you so much for staying up late
My pleasure.
in the US and joining me. I hope that everyone got a lot of great value out of the discussion today. And we will be doing these inside the Facebook group on a regular basis. So they're appearing about every 2 weeks. So for those that have joined us live today, thank you so much for being here. And this video will be posted up in the group for those who did not. And if you really enjoyed this, please recommend the group to your friends, give them the link and ask them to join the group because we would love to help many more people. So good night to you, Mark, and a good night to those that joined us from the US, and good afternoon to everyone in Australia.
Thanks, Brett. Thanks everybody for being here.
Take care, guys.